Hey everyone, it's Maritza of the Sybil Heart, and welcome back to my channel. So here's what's up. Tonight, at 8:02 Central Time, that's 9:02 Eastern Time, there is a very special thing happening with the planet Venus. The planet Venus is going direct into the sign of Pisces. So right now, Venus is in retrograde. I forget what sign it's in. It might be Aries. It might be Aquarius, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But what I do know is that Venus is going direct into Pisces, and what that inspires me to do is give a tarot reading for the collective, whoever may come across this reading, and give a reading on relationships, because Venus is a planet that influences relationships of all kinds. But I think, at least for me, I associate Pisces with like a very romantic vibe. I'm not quite sure why. I just do. I don't think I've ever dated a Pisces. So I'm not sure where this association is coming from. But yeah, so that is why I want to do a relationship reading, particularly regarding romantic relationships, but it can also be about friendships, and people that you're close with. I'm being inspired to do a reading for romantic relationships or chosen family relationships. So they're not blood relatives, but they are spiritual, emotional relatives, your chosen family. Okay. So what I have decided to do is to pull 2 or 3 cards from the Mexican Loteria, Mexican Bingo deck, and see if I can use it to do an oracle reading of some kind. So let me see. I'm sort of testing my skills here. So let's see what happens. So the first card is La Palma, or the palm tree. And what I'm getting from that in terms of relationships is that right now it's either you are looking for someone to provide you with an oasis, or you are currently in a relationship with someone that is like a breath of fresh air, and it's not a mirage, it's not an illusion that you feel this way about them. Then we have the Moon card. So I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull 2 cards and put them on either side of the palm tree card, and have that kind of be have those 2 cards signify which direction this relationship can go in. So we have the Moon card on the left, and on the right we have the cello, or the bass cello. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's the big, huge, it's like a vase. It's like a bass cello. You see it a lot in like jazz bands and stuff. Okay, so here's where my skills are getting really tested. So I was talking about how if you are currently single, you are looking for someone who will be able to provide you with something different, that feels new and different from the previous experiences of relationships that you've had. And if you are currently with someone, this person feels like that different experience of a relationship that you've had before. They are a breath of fresh air. And okay, so with the Moon card, I think what the Moon card is saying is what's happening is that you are getting in touch with your emotions, and you are listening to your gut feeling, your intuition, that feeling that says, yeah, this feels right, this feels good. With the So from what I know about the bass cello, and I'm sorry if there are any musicians out there who are like cringing that I'm not using the proper term for this instrument, but from what I know about how this instrument is used, especially in a jazz band, it provides a type of rhythm, and it sort of gives life to the music being played. It gives it a bit of sustenance, I guess. It feeds into the music so that the music has some kind of a structure. And what I feel like this is saying, it's saying a very similar thing towards your relationship, that this relationship is giving you a spark of life that is giving you a bit of structure, where perhaps before your previous partner was very sporadic, possibly unavailable emotionally. So because that's how a relationship becomes sporadic or sparse or Spartan. It just the previous partner could have been the type that only showed up when they wanted to, and now the person that you're with or the person that you're looking for is available as much as they can be, right? They provide a structure for the relationship, which includes like personal boundaries and limitations. Like, they may be very busy with work, but they actually make an effort to show up when it's important to you, or they make an effort to be more communicative and emotionally available within the relationship. Where with the previous relationships, you haven't had that before. So they're clear about when they can be available due to obligations, but they're also very communicative about like what's going on and why. For example, like they'll tell you when they're going to be late instead of just showing up late. So that's like an example of what I mean, I guess. Okay, so that provides the structure. And it's very different from what you had previously experienced. And I think another thing that might be happening is that it feels strange to you that, like, how easy it is for this person to be communicative and clear about what their availability is or what they're doing, etc. Like, it's sort of, I'm getting that from the moon card, that like it's baffling almost to see how easy it is to be communicative with your relationships, and you're wondering why your previous relationships weren't able to do that. Okay, so with that being said, oh my god, where did my, oh, sorry, I thought I misplaced my tarot deck. But with that being said, let's get into the reading. Just as a friendly reminder, please know that these tarot readings are for entertainment and self-reflection purposes only, and you are responsible for your actions and decisions. And you don't have to take anything said in these readings like as advice, or you see it as a conversation between friends. Like when you speak to your friends, you don't always listen to what they say. So, take and leave whatever it is that you feel is right for you. Okay. messages do we have for Venus direct in Pisces? So this reading is for the whole collective. Whoever comes across this reading, you know, if you feel called to listen to it, please do so. But also it's for people who have their Venus in Pisces, or for people who know someone with their Venus in Pisces. And there are a lot, if you don't know what sign your Venus is in, like there are many astrology websites that provide that service for free. My personal favorite is, I forgot the name. I think it's Astro Cafe. I'll provide the link in the description below. But yeah, okay. Anyway, what messages do you have for Venus direct in Pisces? We're talking about relationships. Excuse me. We're talking about a relationship that finally has some structure to it, that feels like a breath of fresh air. And the first card is the Knight of Pentacles. So I'm going to do a Celtic cross with a significator card. So the Knight of Pentacles is I'm going to say that the Knight of Pentacles is you. And I feel like what's happening right now with this relationship, either the relationship that you're looking for or the relationship that you are in currently, the phrasing that's coming to mind is you're finally grounded in reality. Your expectations about what is humanly possible to provide in a relationship is not too high. When someone says that they're going to be there at a certain time, you expect them to be there at that time. Maybe a couple minutes early or late, whatever. But like, if they say that they're going to be there, then you expect them to be there, and you're not expecting them to show up early with roses or whatever. Like, sometimes that's just not possible. So you're becoming more grounded in reality, where perhaps before you might have been expecting too much than what your previous partners were, for whatever reason, capable of providing you. Maybe it was just a thing, like in your previous relationships, it may have been just a thing of like you were all too young to be able to show up on time all the time, or for some reason there was just an inability to communicate why they were late or whatever, like. But so now it's like you've grown up a little from your previous relationship. Or perhaps you're going into a relationship where where you've kind of come to the realization that perhaps you did have unrealistic expectations, and that was the reason why your previous relationships were so turbulent. And now you feel like you're a little bit steadier when it comes to matters of the heart. Then I pulled the 9 of Pentacles as the current situation card, and it's kind of reminding me of the palm tree card. It's so when I'm seeing this palm tree and I'm thinking of like an oasis in the middle of a desert, and the 9 of Pentacles kind of reminds me of that, because the 9 of Pentacles is depicted by someone in a very lush garden, and it kind of makes me think of a garden that is enclosed by walls, like nobody but you and whoever you want can come into this garden. And in a similar way, the oasis that I'm picturing with the palm tree, like no one can get to that oasis unless you traverse the desert. And that takes very specific characteristics, right? Like you need the survival drive, you need and you need the like intrepidness needed to make the journey. So in a similar way, I feel like the 9 of Pentacles is saying, like, it's going to take very specific characteristics for you to let someone into your romantic space or relationship space, if it's not a romantic relationship. As a challenge card, we have the 5 of Pentacles. So I think the situation is stemming from a lack of, for you at least, it's coming from a lack of consideration about what a person can provide, or what type of relationship your previous relationships could give you. And you may have been, like, your previous relationships could have been just to be like a means to an end, and you didn't really care about how they were fulfilling their end of the relationship. You just wanted to be in a relationship for the relationship's sake, and not because you actually wanted to be around this person. Or maybe that's how it started, but then it ended up being like, I don't know, they could have been anybody in the end. So now for the foundation of the situation, we have the 6 of Wands. Interesting. So, what I'm seeing with the Six of Wands is that there was some kind of encouragement for you to pursue both this relationship and the previous relationships. But it's not a direct encouragement, but more of like you're seeing someone lead by example, and you really like the relationship that they are in, and you want to experience that for yourself. And so you're kind of saying, like, well, why not give it a shot? I mean, the worst that can happen is that the relationship doesn't work out and you move on. That being said, if you're someone who's had previous relationships, those relationships, when they ended, it was actually very difficult because one or both of you were unable to let go of the idealist fantasy of being in a relationship. Like, you were still holding on to the hope that the relationship would develop into the ideal picture of a romantic or whatever relationship. But this time around, you're ready to be more grounded in reality, right? Like I was saying before with the Knight of Pentacles. For the distant past, we have the Four of Pentacles. And I was just talking about how it may have been difficult for you to let go of the potential that the previous relationship still had to reach that ideal, fantastical dream of what you felt a relationship should look like. But now you're using that as an example of what a relationship shouldn't look like. Or maybe that's not the correct phrasing, but it's more of like now you understand that what you were holding on to in your previous relationships is not realistic. There we go. That's the phrasing I should use. So that's the distant past, and it's still definitely influencing your present situation. The crown of the situation is the Five of Cups, and this might be difficult to hear for some, but when you were first starting to date, you were actually looking immediately for the ideal relationship instead of figuring out who you were as a romantic partner. Like, you thought that you were already a perfect romantic partner, maybe unconsciously or subconsciously. I forget the term phrasing, but you were not really learning about your relationship with your romantic partner because you were fully expecting them to meet your expectations. And that may have been the start of all of the problems with the relationship. Again, if this doesn't apply to you in a romantic sense, please apply it in whatever way it makes sense to you or that it applies to you, especially if this reading does resonate, but it's not necessarily romantic. So, and now we have the we have the near future. We have the Knight of Swords, which is interesting because I was speaking about a breath of fresh air, and the Knight of Swords is an air card. It's an airy card. It's it does bring a refreshing approach to things. I'll put it that way. So with the Knight of Swords, I'm seeing challenging times because you're not used to being the one who's meeting your partner's expectations. You're always making sure, or at least previously, you're always making sure that you were the one who was setting the expectations. But this time around, it's both of you have expectations, but you're both being communicative about what those expectations are and what exactly it is that you are capable of meeting, because sometimes these expectations can get very unrealistic. And the Knight of Swords, the swords in general are very communicative. They're very, what's the word? Communicative, they're open, they're transparent about their thought process, their communication, their what they expect, and how, and they're also able to adapt very well to your expectations, and also like being able to they're able to be communicative about what they're able to meet and what they can't, which I feel like is very important to be distinctive about that situation. And also, for you, you're going to have a hard time kind of playing that role as well, just because it's never been something that you've done before in a relationship. So, what does this look like to the outside? What are the outer influences? We have the star. So there's a lot of hope riding in this new perspective that you have gained. Maybe you're hoping that the next relationships that you have are more realistic, are more they're more grounded in reality, which will make them feel like they are closer and more tightly knit. I'm also seeing a sense of freedom within the relationship. Like, no one is trying to control the other. There's no, like, it's a situation where you are able to be who you are without feeling ridiculed, made fun of, same thing. There's just no judgment. There's no judgment involved in this relationship. A card just jumped out. It's the 8 of Swords. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. What I'm seeing here is any criticism that comes into the relationship, it will be because of your own vulnerabilities and insecurities. And that's not to say that they're not valid, but you will have to communicate them with the relationship that you're in, so that they can understand where you're coming from a little bit better. And now, if you're already in a relationship, this is not the time to isolate yourself if you feel insecure or vulnerable about your relationship. This is the time to do the exact opposite, to speak and open up to your romantic partner, to your friend, whoever it is, about what is troubling you, specifically about the relationship. Okay, so now we are looking at inner influences. What is happening within your heart, within your mind, within your spirit regarding this relationship or this potential relationship? The 9 of Swords. So, okay. Here's what I'm seeing. If you are not in a relationship, I'm going to urge caution when you find a potential partner, because you may, you may be relying on that tendency to jump into a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship, because for whatever reason, being in a relationship is possibly it's a core value for you. Maybe due to seeing the example of an ideal relationship, and you're desperately grasping, or you may have a tendency to desperately grasp at a relationship and hold on to it tightly, that it becomes constricting to the other person in some way. There was something else, but I lost my train of thought. So I'll just move on. So I am a little concerned that you may fall back to that tendency to just be in a relationship for relationship's sake, and not because you actually feel like, oh, sorry, my cards just exploded. But it's that thing where, like, you feel you won't pay attention to the partner kind of thing, and so the relationship will quickly fall apart because you're not in the relationship. You are trying to shape it into something that it might possibly not be or ever be. So now we are looking for the hopes and fears card. I'm going to cut the deck. It is the Two of Pentacles. So the Two of Pentacles is saying, hold on, Two of Pentacles, it's making me think of like go with the flow type of energy. I have the sense that you don't like that. You do not like going with the flow, having to adapt, having to, sorry, my mind. Sorry, that's my cat. And like I was talking about before with the bass cello, providing some kind of structure, your previous relationships didn't have that, and that was like the beginning of all the turbulence in the relationship. And so that is the thing that you're trying to avoid when you begin to place your high expectations on your partner. You're trying to shape them into something next to impossible, perhaps. The other thing I'm seeing is like I'm I'm thinking a lot about that that meme where Elmo does the shrug. Elmo from Sesame Street does that shrug, like, oh well, or whatever. Um, there's a level of indifference that needs to be applied to the relationship. Not that you don't care about the relationship, but that, like, it's going to help you lower your expectations to a more realistic approach, and it's going to help you adapt a little better to a more human level of going with the flow and not having to shape or try to make the relationship fit into something that it might not ever reach. I hope that made sense. I am struggling a little bit to interpret the Two of Pentacles in a romantic setting, but again, this is testing my skills, so I think I'm doing a fairly good job, if I do say so myself. And the outcome card, the final card here is the Five of Swords. Okay, so it's not going to be perfect right off the bat. You are not going to be perfect as a romantic partner or what have you right off the bat. You're going to struggle a lot with lowering your expectations. And this does not mean okay, so here's what I'm saying. You may be confusing lowering your expectations with lowering your boundaries. And that is not what is meant. You can make your expectations more realistic, but your boundaries and integrity can remain high. Like, don't expect movie romance if like immediately. That's just not something that happens or should happen. And if you this is just a personal opinion, but if you do come across someone who does give you a movie romance right off the bat, I would question that. Because, like, if they're pulling out all the stops immediately, like, what's left? What's going to be left as the relationship progresses? Because that's something, like, giving movie romance is not sustainable. Like, they won't always be able to afford a dozen red roses for date night or whatever. Like that's just not, I mean, do you see what I mean? Like I hope that comes across right. So like I would question if the new partner pulls out all of the stops immediately, like gives you a dozen roses, gives you candlelit dinner, like I mean it's fun as a date or whatever, but like I would question like why are they even trying that hard? I don't know. It just I'm that's what's coming up in my mind. Yeah, and so the other thing is like I think what is being said with the Five of Swords, the other thing, is that you shouldn't expect so much from yourself either. Like, especially if it's not a human capability, like I was saying before, like if you're expecting to buy a dozen red roses every date night, like that's not always possible. I mean, not that I'm speaking from, I mean, like I'm not saying that I do that or don't, like it's just it's a I don't know. I would question it if that was something you felt like you needed to do. It's, yeah. Okay. That is the reading for Venus direct in Pisces. Oh, in terms of astrology, let's see, we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is Earth signs, Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. We have the Knight of Swords, which is air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. And we have the Star card, which is Aquarius. So those are the important signs of this reading. You may want to pay attention to those specific seasons, or those might be signs that are relevant to you and or your partner / relationship person. Okay, well, that is definitely now the end of this reading, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye!